All right, pencils still don't have to be down just yet. There is still some time to go in the recording this live. We're recording this on August 2nd. This is the Guardians of the Future podcast. I'm Justin Lada. Willie Hood is with me as always. There's still 10 minutes left as we start recording this in the trading deadline, so hopefully something will happen. The Guardians haven't done anything yet. I guess we'll find out. I'm sorry, Willie. I shouldn't say haven't done anything yet. That would disrespect Sandy Leone. The Guardians have traded Sandy Leone to the Twins for Ian Hamilton. That's the move, Willie. That's all they've done right now.
Underwhelming. I like Ian Hamilton.
That's a term. That's a term.
He's a reliever in the Twins organization now, but he's bounced around quite a bit too. Been with the White Sox, I think, Philly, Twins, now Cleveland. So 4 orgs. He's only 27 years old. Low 90s fastball. He's up to 95, 96. Has a slider and a changeup. Showing pretty good control this year too, but he's never really done much in the big league level. Maybe he's somebody they can find a thing or two with and unlock it. You know, I said that about De Los Santos whenever they picked him up, and he's been pretty good and added a little bit of velocity. So you never know. Maybe that works out for them. But I mean, this isn't anything to be excited about. Obviously, I think there's a lot to talk about when more so with the moves that haven't been made, I guess is what I'm really trying to say.
Well, that's why you're here. You're here to have us break down the addition of Ian Hamilton. That's why you subscribe to this podcast. Yeah. That's why you listen, you come to the site, because we're even the smallest trade, we still find a way to add something to the discussion. Oh my goodness, I can't believe. Are you? I don't want to say I'm surprised so far. We'll continue to react live if anything does happen. It would be great if something did, but I guess we'll find out. There's still some stuff going on, Willie. Things are trickling in.
Yeah, I saw Syndergaard. Looks like he's going to be going to the Phillies, maybe, and Fulmer is getting dealt. There's a couple of deals going on. We'll hear some right at the deadline, and some stuff, probably some minor trades after the deadline that we'll hear about. You know, I'll remind everyone Mercado wasn't announced until about an hour and a half after the deadline. So seems like they were fairly late or right at the bug last year on one of the deals that they pulled off too. Maybe Luplow or the deal with that was the Battenfield deal, or Straw. I don't remember which one it was, but one of them seemed like it was later into the day too.
Yeah, last year was the Straw deal. Yeah, I mean, and things could trickle into the last minute for sure. Gosh, you hope they do at this point. It would not be great if they don't, but there's not a lot going on. I don't want to say I'm surprised nothing has happened, but I am a little bit surprised. I mean, I think the biggest hurdle today was there's not a lot of dance partners out there. Like if you. I know other teams got things done. People are going to say, well, look, other teams made trades. How come Cleveland didn't? Yeah, that's true. Other teams made trades and Cleveland hasn't to this point. So that's fair. It's fair to say and criticize. But I will say, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at this, Cleveland in their situation is probably not targeting a rental. We could see them go for a rental at the last moment here. I think there's some hope, some possible buzz of a connection to Wilson Contreras. We'll see. But I think Cleveland was obviously looking to parlay, a lot of these Rule 5 eligible guys coming up in 2022 or guys that are on the 40 that they, maybe want to clear spots from. I think the only team that really out there that was a match was maybe Oakland for that. And you would have had to blow Pittsburgh away for, David Bednar or Brian Reynolds. They seem pretty dead set on not trading Brian Reynolds or David Bednar, which I'm not sure why they're not trading Bednar, but to me, that's a guy I would definitely move considering he's 27 and he's got a late start to his career in terms of service time. And do the last place teams need all-star closers who are 27 years old when they're, 2 or 3 years from contending? Probably not. So I would trade him if I were the Pirates, but it sounds like they want to be bowled over. So the matches are few and far between in my eyes. I think like the Orioles clearly sold a little. They did trade Jorge Lopez to the Twins. They did trade Trey Mancini, which I'm surprised by, but Cedric Mullins was no longer a target. The Nationals had, traded Josh Bell to the Padres and then make a deal today. The Rockies really didn't have anybody. The Reds, maybe Tyler Mahle went to the Twins. It sounds like you said that maybe Cleveland was interested there, but they ended up not making that deal.
There was rumors around Mahle that Cleveland was interested in pursuit of Mahle. I think Zach Meisel brought him up the other day. And there's been a few rumors since then that Cleveland was interested in him. He would have been a nice addition for the rotation, but there's only 1+ year. Really 1+ year of control with him. And is Cleveland going to overpay for that? No, that's the thing. They're going to stick to their values on guys. If they see a guy that's controllable for like a year and less than a half, they're not going to overpay to get him, even if competition is division opponents.
Here's a weird trade that just came in here with 5 minutes to go. The Yankees traded Jordan Montgomery to the Cardinals for Harrison Bader. That is not something I saw coming, but there you go. Really weird. Mickey Moniak to the Angels for Noah Syndergaard. The Angels had a weird day. They traded Brandon Marsh to the Phillies for Logan O'Hoppe, which was a guy that you and I know Quincy Wheeler, our buddy, was interested in adding. I think Logan O'Hoppe probably didn't fit because he would have had to be on the 40-man roster this fall, and you've already got to add Bo Naylor. So as much as O'Hoppe would have been nice, you would have had to find more room to add these guys. So I know that didn't seem like it was going to be a fit. But yeah, it just seems like, I know some people have said, well, they should make some moves for a rental or something. The Mets also just got Michael Gibbons, who is a reliever who's got 1 year and a third of control. So that's another relief option off the board for Cleveland as well, as moves are, getting in under the wire here. I just think the issue is dance partners. It's just, look, Cleveland doesn't want to trade Hunter Gaddis, Xavier Curry, Peyton Battenfield, a Angel Martinez. They don't want to trade those guys for a guy they have control of for 2 or 3 months at max. And there are certainly situations where that's called for. They've done it in the past, and maybe they still will here. Who knows? But I think the issue, they're normally averse to that when they're not they're in a position where they are. I think maybe they're a year early in contending. The division is pretty flat, although Twins just got better, so we'll see.
Better on paper. We'll see what they do on the field.
Right. Yeah. Nobody ever. There's no guarantees. I mean, divisions are not won in December, as we've seen before. So, but they definitely got better on paper. So I don't know. I mean, what do you think? I really think it's just they're very averse to trading anybody who they feel like they would be worth. Like if there was somebody they weren't, they're going to roster Will Brennan as long as he's still here. Bo Naylor, those kind of guys. I feel like, those are guys they're not going to trade for 2 months of something, and it just looks like maybe they couldn't find anything to add because they would have preferred to to make turn that into someone like Sean Murphy or I don't know, Ramon Laureano. I'm not sure Ramon Laureano fit anymore, but there were very few teams out there looking to strip down their roster even further, and I think Cleveland really wanted a long-term piece, and so far they haven't added that.
And I wondered if Tito's comment about muddying the water was regarding Sean Murphy, because he would have been controllable for 3+ years. And, Noah Naylor or Bo Naylor, he's eligible to be added to the 40-man and likely going to be in some sort of rotation as a catching as the catcher next year. So if they had acquired Murphy, in essence, I wouldn't believe that he would really block Naylor, because I think that you could work with two catchers. Arizona is trying to do that with Varsho, but
Right.
and Kelly there. So I wondered if that comment was about that. That would have been a long-term piece that would have immediately fit and helped the organization, and an immediate upgrade, but it would have muddied the water if that's who he was referring to specifically. I don't think that this organization is going to run out and get people to get them. They're not making trades to make trades, but sometimes there are obvious deals to be had. Sometimes there's value to be found, and I've often looked and thought to myself, wow, that reliever only went for that. That's all they gave for him. This year, pitching has been at a premium. I think it's a seller's market, not a buyer's market. So I think that plays into it. Cleveland is a stickler to sticking to their value, and they are well known for being difficult to work with. I think that reputation precedes them in deals, and sometimes teams just don't want to fool with them. They'd rather go with another club that they're familiar with. So, Mad Thinker and I were talking about a potential trade partner and a potential piece that was eventually traded a month or so ago, and he pointed out they have their favorite teams that they like to go back to. We haven't seen that annual trade with the Rays yet, unless there's one here at 6:00.
Maybe they finally learned not to do that. Maybe they finally learned.
Yeah, some of these moves may wait till the off season. I'm curious what you do with Franmil Reyes.
Wow, hey, real quick, the Royals are trading Whit Merrifield. That just came through at the buzzer.
Wow.
Sorry, go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, do you trade Franmil Reyes in the offseason? Do you non-tender him? I think that would be a bold move to just give up on him altogether. I know they're sending him down now. I thought, hey, they're moving him off the roster. They may try to get something back for him. You see Joey Gallo bring back an interesting pitching prospect, and I say that because I do like Clayton Beater. Makes me wonder what Franmil's value would have been, but Franmil isn't the defender, nor can he play outfield like Gallo can. So, there's some additional on-base skills with Gallo, who's had a horrible year, but a gamble on the part of the Dodgers to take on Gallo and giving up an interesting pitching prospect to the Yankees there. Cleveland hasn't been a team to really make big trades in the offseason either, though, so we did see the Lindor and Cookie deal, but that was more forced on them. The last one before that was Carlos Santana, Edwin Encarnacion, and the comp pick all involved. And of course, I can't forget Yandy Diaz, because there's some Yandy Diaz worshipers out there. So, I mean, it to me, it kind of muddies the water that they didn't do anything too. There's more decisions to be put off into the offseason now. Yes, you get to view all of these guys. You can continue to see your guys in the minor leagues. There's only so much room for all of these players. Jared said earlier, between you and I, you can't have 60 guys on a 40-man roster. Well, like I said, don't tell me numbers.
Maybe the Guardians know something we don't. Maybe they the Dodgers just did something because someone got pulled from their lineup in Lake County, Great Lakes, by the way. So we'll see how that plays out. But Whit Merrifield goes to the Blue Jays for ex-Indians draft pick, Samad Taylor.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a nice pickup for them.
Yeah, Samad Taylor and Max Castillo from the Blue Jays. So
we'll have a few more trickling in.
Yeah, I think so. So I guess, not that I really want to bring this up on here because it's a sensitive issue to everybody, but Whit Merrifield was not able to play in Toronto last time the Royals were in Toronto because he wasn't vaccinated, and now he's going to Toronto. So there's that. Anyway.
I think he probably agreed to take care of that. You know.
Yeah,
So,
I don't think he's playing at home without doing that, but I guess we'll find out. The Dodgers must have done something because, like I said, somebody just got pulled from their lineup in Lake County.
yeah, I'm looking to see if I see anything, and I just see where the Jays grabbed.
Yeah,
We'll go with the Grays.
yeah. I mean, okay. So here's the thing: you can make trades ahead of setting the rule, setting your 40-man roster ahead of the Rule 5 draft. So it's not like this is their last chance to make a trade.
Yeah.
The thing is, there's not I don't know if there's a lot of history in terms of big trades going down in November, because that deadline is usually like the last week of November, I think, right before the winter meetings, which is usually the first or second week of December. There's not a lot of big trades made around that time. Yeah, there are trades made, but not like, major acquisitions. So
yeah, that Jan Gomes deal happened the day trades became what's the word, allowed or whatever, where they were allowed to actually start making trades again, right after the World Series. So, I mean, maybe that's something they can do. I thought that they would be more active on the trade front this past offseason, and they weren't. So, I mean, there's a lot of people that thought that. It just seems a continual lack of movement. I think that's where some of the frustration is coming from, knowing that this is coming, that there's such a large crop of 40-man eligible players coming, and these are quality players, which I'm sure you and I will review these here in just a few minutes.
Yeah,
but it's something I think is just causing more frustration for some fans who really follow the farm, and we're like, where are you going to put all of these guys? They've not had outfielders, and it's almost they're burgeoning with outfielders all of a sudden.
Right. Ken Rosenthal, obviously it's 6 o'clock, it's 6:06, so I things could trickle in if they got sent in before the deadline. But Ken Rosenthal says that Wilson Contreras and Ian Happ did not get traded from the Cubs, so there's that. Yeah, that's kind of a surprise. Yes, and it looks like really nothing's happening. There's a lot to clear on the 40-man coming up here in the winter. Obviously, there's no August trade deadline anymore because there's no more waiver deadline, so that's over with. Yeah, I mean, gosh, they're going to have to roster somebody. Stacy did ask us to run through the Rule 5 guys that are coming up this winter, so we can take a look at that here as we continue to kind of discuss things. It's going to be a problem. I don't know. Like I said, you're not necessarily, like I said, you're not going to trade a Will Brennan or a Xavier Curry or Hunter Gaddis for a guy you can control for 2 months. That's just not what this team does. They just don't do that. The examples I gave earlier of rental trades were like, I'm trying to remember, it was Jay Bruce in 2017, and that was in August after they had lost Lonnie Chisenhall to an injury, and not Lonnie Chisenhall, I'm sorry, Michael Brantley to an injury. They were obviously, that was their best year to win. They had the 22-game winning streak. They acquired Joe Smith. Andrew Miller wasn't a rental. Coco Crisp was. Joe Smith, like I said, was a rental. Those, and they traded Samad Taylor, just got traded again today. But Samad Taylor at that point was in like, I'm sorry, they traded Julian Merriweather for Josh Donaldson. That was 2018. So, okay, 16, 17, and 18. 17 and 18, obviously, they were front runners in the division. The division was bad. They were clearly out front of everybody, and they were going for it, right? And they had a need for Donaldson. Like I said, Andrew Miller was a long-term ad. Brad Hand was a long-term ad. So they've had a history of trading for short-term guys, but it's when they're in the position of being in first place. I mean, clearly in 2016 they had the momentum. I think this year it's a little murky. And that's why I said, it feels like they're a year ahead of schedule, right?
Yes.
The biggest issue is really trying to get breathing room on the 40. Yeah, like I said, it'd be great to add. Your comment about Francona saying muddying the water as a catcher, which I agree with you. I still think they could have managed having Murphy and Naylor. I think they could have made that work, especially given Naylor's athleticism and probably not wanting to bring him up till next year anyway. Like I said in the beginning, like I've been saying the whole time, I just don't see a lot. I didn't see a lot of fits for them out there. I mean, yeah, Contreras and Happ. I mean, Happ would have been great. Happ's got control through next year, so that would have maybe worked. Yeah, I just there wasn't a lot of fits for them. I mean, there were some rentals, but again, like I keep saying, I don't see them. I didn't see them trading any 40-man eligible prospects for a rental. Does that mean they're going to lose them in the Rule 5 draft this winter? No. I mean, they definitely need to make some trades before everything happens. Maybe those trades happen. My best bet was making a prospect for a prospect trade. I thought for sure they would, trade somebody who was 40-man eligible this winter for a guy who wasn't eligible till like 2024. So yeah, but that didn't happen either. So that one's hard to figure out.
That's kind of where my mind was at, is they'll probably consolidate. I mentioned that on a thread on Twitter this morning that I expected maybe 2 or 3 trades. So less active than I thought, clearly, with a minor league trade being the only one that they've made so far that we know about. I thought for sure there would be at least one consolidation trade today, and then look for a couple this offseason where you can package together a player with a prospect and maybe get back a reliever or something like that. Maybe it happens this offseason when they move a few guys and bring back like international pool space or something like that from another team. They've traded away international pool space. They've never sought to acquire it, and they've traded away a Comp B pick in the past, but they've never really sought to acquire those either. So I wonder if that's if there's some potential for a deal like that they can make in the future. Add a little bit of pool money to the international pool. They could do that in November. They could do a player to be named later, or that I think that can be dealt as part of a deal. I'm not sure with the new CBA for the next trading period, but they can't acquire the draft picks until those are allotted, and I'm not quite sure when that is. And that might be in December, which would make things more difficult, particularly if it is after the Rule 5 draft, whenever they have to have everyone rostered by that tender, non-tender deadline.
Yeah, there's, like I said, there's not a lot of history of trades that are significant at that point. Maybe there will be. Who knows? I think you're right. I think when we get to that point this offseason, I think for sure this is where you'll see it happen. Hopefully, geez, if they don't, then I guess you're losing players in the Rule 5 for nothing, right? Because here's the thing. Anybody you don't add to the 40 ahead of the Rule 5 draft, you can trade them, but you can only trade them for minor league players. So let's run an example here. Like if they get to the 40-man deadline for the Rule 5 draft this November, and they decide we're not going to add, I don't know, Hunter Gaddis. They're not going to add Hunter Gaddis for whatever reason. Hunter Gaddis can be traded for another player who's not on someone's 40, but he can't be traded for a major leaguer. So you could see a consolidation trade then. Maybe they trade Hunter Gaddis for a catcher that doesn't have to be added to the Rule 5 to the 40-man roster until like the next year. They could do that, but they can't trade upwards with that. So that's where the example comes from there.
Yeah, and the catch there though is if he's not rostered by the other team either. They can't protect him after that deadline.
He can still get traded.
Yeah, he can get traded, but you would be risking, that team would potentially be risking losing him if they acquired him. And
the value is low.
Yeah, and we've seen a few players get picked that, they got traded and then they weren't protected, then they got picked in the Rule 5. The Orioles signed a catcher, a minor league catcher, somebody that had been with the Cervanka, I think his name was.
Martin Cervanka, yeah.
He ended up getting drafted either by the Orioles or from the Orioles. I can't remember. Maybe it was from the Giants. But anyways, that was the case. He signed as a minor league free agent and ended up getting selected in the Rule 5. That's another scenario. So anything that happens will likely happen before that non-tender deadline. Well, whatever that deadline is called, I can't remember right now.
Right. Okay, so I hate to do the whole grading trade deadline things, but let's talk about this. Did they, not from who they didn't acquire, but I think it has to be a D for them based on the fact they weren't able to consolidate their roster issues alone. I mean, that, again, acquiring something they needed right now or in the future would have been great. But I think just for the fact they weren't able to consolidate their roster issue at all, I don't know. This is definitely a D or an F, I think, as far as deadlines go. Don't you agree, or do you think that are we still in wait and see mode? I don't know. I guess it's hard to grade not knowing that what offers were or were not available to them, but just not getting that done is really bad.
Well, I'll say this: we don't know what was on the table. The rumors of Murphy, rumors of Molly. There's always rumors with players. I will say that, Oakland probably floated it out there that they weren't going to trade him until this offseason to get Cleveland to give more, or that was really their baseline, so to speak. That's how they were going to operate, because I always tend to think of teams that are in that type of scenario always holding one more chip to get more for the future later. What's your next piece that you're holding on to? And, we've kind of looked at Baltimore that way and seen them deal away chips, and it seems like they don't have anything, and then another player develops and emerges, and they end up trading them away and getting more. I think Oakland, once they traded Montas, decided to hold Murphy, and Cleveland probably wasn't going to pay the price that Oakland would have asked for. But I do agree with you that you can run two catchers out there.
Right.
I even dare to think that you could have all of Murphy, Naylor, and Lavastida on the same roster because of the positional flexibility some of these guys have. And you can still get them adequate at bats, pinch hit, roll, playing first base, second base, things like that, DH, where you get the guys in the lineup and they're getting plenty of time where they're not looking like they're just part-time players. I think it's possible. Would Cleveland do that, though? I think maybe that's, like I said, maybe that was where Tito was talking about, that they didn't want to muddy the water. But it muddies the water to me to not make these type of moves, the consolidation type of moves that you mentioned a second ago. I said not moving is standing still, basically, or not making a move is standing still. I really felt like they stood still on some things. I think maybe they could be aggressive or more aggressive to get things done sometimes. When you have players that you're going to end up losing in the Rule 5 draft, I wonder if you're better suited just chipping them in on a deal or biting the bullet and paying the extra, though you never really want to set value that way. They tend to do that. They will go in on players when they feel like, hey, we're getting ready to make that big jump. We've seen them make a few big trades in recent years. Ubaldo Jimenez, Andrew Miller. They did go after Donaldson. They added Jay Bruce. So they have pushed in to get players. While we've been critical in the past, most of those are deadline deals. So,
yeah, I don't know. It's like you said, standing still. That's a could have very much Could have very much done something. Our friend Andrew Kinsman, who always is able to check me on some procedural rule when it comes to rehabs and injured lists and things like that, wanted to know about beating the offer for Tyler Mahle from the Reds. That was the Twins traded Spencer Steer, Christian Encarnacion Strand, and Steven Hajar. Surely Cleveland could have beaten that. Yeah, probably. I'd have to look. Mahle's got what, a year and a half control left, I think?
Yes. And there's been rumors in the past that Cleveland liked him. When his name came up again this year, I was not surprised. In fact, I said, hey, this is a guy I've liked, but I think it was probably a value thing. What was Cleveland willing to give up? And obviously it wasn't the package that Cincinnati wanted.
Yeah. I'm trying to go through Fangraphs. It's taken forever. I know a little bit about Spencer Steer. Looks like the Oakland A's did trade a catcher today. Willie, they traded Austin Allen. So don't say they didn't trade a catcher. Don't say they didn't trade a catcher. That's why they signed Bo Taylor the other day, is because they had to make that trade. They had to trade Austin Allen, who was at one time a prospect. Gosh, I'd really like this Fangraphs page to load, but it sounds like everybody is headed to Fangraphs to read all this stuff. So none of them want to load. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think off the top of my head how Cleveland could have beaten it. I mean, I'm just trying to think. Spencer Steer, I suppose you could have gone with, any of the shortstops Cleveland's got, Tyler Freeman or Gabriel Arias. Could have gone with any two infielders and a pitcher. Yeah. So, I mean, easily could have probably come in on that offer. But how about this? I didn't see this one before. The Braves picked up Raisel Iglesias from the Angels for Jesse Chavez and Tucker Davidson. That seems like a weird trade. They didn't get much.
Yeah.
I guess Tucker Davidson's good, but I think the Braves are paying a lot of Iglesias' salary because the Angels are weird. But yeah, I don't know. There's definitely stuff Cleveland could have done. Like you said, the value's tough, and I don't know. Maybe they're a little too conservative on trading. This group they have is deep, but it's also there's just so many issues waiting for them if they don't make a move. And I don't know let's say you make a trade come November when you've got to clear up these spots and figure something out. What are you really getting back value wise? Because at that point, like you said, you're probably doing the same thing. There's not, like I said, there's not a lot of history of trades where you are getting back significant major league talent in November, because everybody is either also tight with 40-man spots, like everybody else has to fit prospects on their roster too, right? So there's that issue, and everybody wants to go into the winter meetings with open 40-man spots because A, of the Rule 5 draft, and B, because they just want to be able to have the ability to be flexible and add guys they like. I mean, if a trade comes up and you like someone, then you do it. But it's very unlikely you're going to get a major league talent in November from a trade. I mean, has it happened before? I'm sure it has. I'd have to go back and look. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think the odds are technically low on that because historically, but
seems like something the White Sox have done a few years back. They made several big trades in November, early, out ahead of everyone anyway.
Yeah, so it could happen. It's just probably a little bit more rare. So I mean, what's your difference here? You hang on to, 4 or 5 guys that people asked for, you didn't want to trade, and instead of making the trade now for something, whatever it could have been, maybe you're trading for, like we said, international money. You're trading for a prospect that, is a couple of years away, and you don't need to add to the 40-man roster, which, that may happen anyway. That may happen in November because we thought it would happen today, and it didn't. So your odds of getting somebody then because you held on to these guys, I don't know. Does the value really change? Like, are you really maybe you have more teams to negotiate with versus there's a few maybe during the deadline? I don't know. And I think also there's a lot, like you said, it's a seller's market. And there's a lot of teams hanging on because of this new wild card rule, which I don't understand. So,
Yeah, I
I
think
don't
that's
know.
where you see Boston kind of going two directions at the same time.
If anybody has any insight into what Boston did today, please tell me because I'm lost. I mean, this week they traded Christian Vasquez, they hung on to everybody else, and they added Tommy Pham and Eric Hosmer, which I I don't really understand at all.
And we gave up on a former first round left hander too that had a lot of talent and showed potential. I don't know. It's hard to go two directions at the same time. It's something that the Rays have done, and I think because the Rays have seemingly successfully done that, other teams think that they can do it, but I think it's a lot harder than that. And I don't think Cleveland has treaded water, so to speak, very successfully last year, because Cleveland seemed like they were doing the same thing last year, trying to go both directions at the same time, get younger, get the payroll down, and kind of transition to a new core, to new guys. But if we're going with new guys, then why are we not giving more young guys more time? Why are we not giving them opportunities?
Well, Sandy Leon got moved, so there you go. That's opening up some playing time.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was brought in because Hedges got hurt and Lavastida was down too, so that was a timing issue. And you and I both know that they liked him and they had him in camp with them. So getting anything for him, I think, shows you the state of the catching position. Now that you mention it, though, and I mentioned this to you earlier in our DMs, but Cleveland is literally down to one catcher at the end of the season, that being Brian Lavastida, because Austin Hedges is a free agent. Luke Maile will be a free agent.
Luke Maile has a year of control left.
Oh, does he? Okay.
Yeah, he's got. Let me double check right now because I'm actually on that page right now. I think he's got a year of control left. I think he's arbitration eligible this winter. Andrew Kinsman also said again too that all the White Sox did was get Jake Diekman. They traded away Reese McGuire for Jake Diekman, so not a lot there. I mean, I guess the Twins probably feel like I don't know. You don't win a division in December, and you don't win it in July or on August 2nd. But man, the Twins got to feel pretty good today. And look, the Rays who have been in the similar situation as Cleveland in the past. Here's what they did: they traded off Christian Serta. They traded off four guys that were either on the 40-man roster or needed to be. They cleared two guys off of it, and they added 1, 2, 3 players. So the Rays kind of freed themselves of some 40-man issues as well. Mm-hmm. The Rays were able to add some. I mean, they added David Peralta, which I don't think Cleveland was really a fit for, but they added Jose Siri. They've had a center field problem with Kevin Kiermaier hurt. Luke Maile is arbitration eligible this winter, so he can be a free agent after next year. So I guess they have 2 catchers next year, and they'll have 3.
Be free with Bo Naylor. So, I mean, okay, Luke Maile is our starting catcher next year.
Oy. Good.
And the Murphy will be back on the trade block. Right. Oakland pretty well said that they'll look to deal him in the offseason.
What value changes? So that's my question. What value changes in December or November?
I was more confident something might get done there, just with the old rumors based on Matt Olson, and that configuration of that deal may be something that would work for Sean Murphy. But I guess not. I guess the A's wanted more talent just because of scarcity of position, and everybody knows the A's are gonna move him. It's just a question of when. Frankly, I don't think his value changes any. I'm not upset that Cleveland held Ahmed Rosario. I'm not upset that Cleveland held Zach Plesac. My only disappointment is that they didn't work a deal to clear a spot, a reversal of the Tobias Myers, deal like, I talked about on Twitter the other day. Get a guy off of the 40 and get back a younger prospect. Maybe it goes that route this offseason where they're able to do that for international pool space. I imagine a lot of teams have probably spent a lot of that, and the players that are left on the market are either late emerging players that are typically from either Asia or Cuba. Most players already have a deal in place by the time, the January of that year. Well, they usually have a deal in place a couple years in advance, unless it's a player that is coming onto the market from Asia or coming onto the market from Cuba. Then those players typically just kind of seem to pop up.
Here's some takeaways, too. I just got a text from Joe Collins, who's back from his internship in Virginia, by the way. He's covering the Guardians tonight for us in person for the first time since June. Takeaways from Chris Anthony's press conference that happened at 6 o'clock after the deadline. They're really excited about the group they have. There wasn't a trade idea they felt could help their current needs. They felt like the 40-man roster overload isn't a problem right now. So
you're right. It's not a problem right now.
I guess it's not right now. Maybe we're overblowing it. I don't know. Are we? It feels like we're not overblowing. Okay, let's get into this now. I think we've said all we can say.
Just pull out the 40-man roster and look at it and say he's gone.
Yeah, let's go over that now because Stacy did ask that question. This is kind of where we're going to go this week because I didn't have a lot of other topics other than the Will Benson call up and some other guys who are back finally healthy this week. So yeah, let's look at the 40-man roster just coming up this winter. And again, if you haven't been to our site in a while, Arthur did add a tab on the rosters page for Rule 5. So you can go to our rosters page, look at the tab on the bottom of the layout, and you can scroll through 40, the Cleveland roster, 26-man roster, the 180 of the minor leagues, all the affiliates, and they have a Rule 5 tab. So this is just the guys I think for sure would go in the Rule 5 draft if they weren't protected. Peyton Battenfield, I'm pretty sure they'll look to protect him. Hunter Gaddis, Xavier Curry, Joey Cantillo, who would have been gone over the winter had he not been added last year, or if there was a Rule 5 draft last winter. Bo Naylor, no-brainer. Martinez, probably a no-brainer if depending on what they have at that point in time. Will Brennan, obviously having a great year. And then who's on the 40-man roster now, and we'll see how that goes. Those are guys for sure that would go in the Rule 5 draft. I think all of them. Don't you? I mean, who there would you not take a chance on a Rule 5 draft? I mean, I guess those guys, I would do it.
Yeah, I think Gaddis goes, Cantillo goes, Curry goes. Let me see. There's another pitcher that you mentioned, I think goes. I think the one that they'll risk it with, and I think he will probably be safe, is Ethan Hankins. Bo Naylor will be added. Angel Martinez should be added. Will Brennan will be added. They've already added Will Benson, Nick Mikolajchak. Yeah. Velocity's down. I think they may risk it with him. I could see them non-tendering Luke Maley and then bringing him back on a minor league deal.
Sure, that clears a spot.
Yeah, I think that clears a spot for him. Brian Shaw will be gone. I think Anthony Castro's gone. Ghost probably gets the axe this offseason. My opinion, he wasn't great and barely holding on to a position. Now he's on the 60-day IL. My opinion is he is likely off of the roster. Kirk McCarty will be gone.
Yeah.
I don't know how many spots that clears.
Well, let's see. You said Castro, McCarty, Shaw, Maley could be one. Who else was there besides those four?
Those four.
So that's 4 spots only, and they're a full 40. And don't forget, Ghost is currently not on the 40 because he's on the 60, and they have to re-add Cody Morris, and the 40-man roster is currently full. So they have to re-add Morris, which I'm assuming when Morris comes back, which he's close. He's in Columbus this week. He's had 3 rehab appearances in the ACL. I would guess Morris comes back for McCarty, so that's going to take up a spot. So you're really only at 3.
Yeah, and I think Reyes is an option to move in the offseason in some aspect. You can non-tender him. I think they'll try to work a trade with him, hope that he rebounds, brings back some value for the club. They probably took a few calls on him. I did see a trade rumor a week or so ago that basically said that they weren't getting a lot of calls on him. That's why I floated out the idea of adding a prospect to him and seeing what you can get back. But Cleveland probably still holds him in a higher value bracket, so to speak, than they would get back even in that type of scenario.
Right. And they're not gonna they're not gonna sell low on him. I think they, like you said early in the podcast, we know that Cleveland sets a value on their players. When they set a value, they don't back off of it. They're not going to meet you in the middle. You say, well, we think this guy's worth this. Well, that's great. If Cleveland doesn't agree, they don't change their stance on a player unless they get the value equal to what they're looking for. So if they still have any sort of value on Franmil Reyes that's not trading him just to get rid of him, then they're going to hold on to get that, and that's what they do. Willie, you're still sitting down, right?
Yes.
Would you like more bad news on top of not making trades today?
Go for it.
You ready? You sure?
I'm looking on Twitter now, so.
Oh,
I'm not seeing anything yet, though. But
Joe said today in the press conference with Chris Antonetti, he revealed that Daniel Espino is still pretty far away from coming back, and it doesn't really sound like he's going to pitch again this year. So,
wow,
that doesn't sound great. So today just got a little bit worse. I know Rob Cerfolio had said to me a couple weeks ago that they were expecting that they would see him in Akron again this year, but that wasn't set in stone. And
with all that, Justin, I think I'm ready to call it a podcast and go to bed. Thanks, man.
Oh, I know. I did get a drink before we started recording, just because I knew this is how it was going to go.
I'm sipping on an awful strong cup of coffee right now.
Is it decaf? Because if it's caffeinated, you're not going to go to bed.
Yeah, it's decaf. I've changed my ways. I'm like, why do I stay up until 1 o'clock and then get up at 4?
Yeah. If you want to go to bed to forget this day, then definitely keep the decaf going for sure at this point. Yikes, not a great one. So okay, you've essentially cleared 3 spots. You just said Castro. I think McCarty goes off the 40 for Morris when he's got to be re-added. So there's that.
Maybe De Los Santos. It's
I don't know.
Arm,
I guess they could. They do like him a little bit, so I'm on the fence on that. I know other people keep saying, "Oh, maybe they can clear Ernie Clement," but I don't know.
They're not going to clear.
Yeah, I don't see it right now.
Alex Call would be one.
So, okay, there you go. Alex Call is one for sure. I think it would be an easy one. So, yeah, you've essentially got 4 spots to play with Morris coming back for McCarty, I think. So you've got 4 spots. You've got Castro, you've got Shaw, you've got maybe Maley if they decide to non-tender him, which maybe they will, and then you've got Alex Call. And then we just said, let's see, Battenfield, Gaddis, Curry, Cantillo, Naylor, Martinez, Brennan. That's 7 right there. That doesn't include Mikolajczak. I don't think they'll add Nick Enright or Tim Herron. I mean, those guys could go in the Rule 5, but I don't think they will. So that's three too many guys, which you already have. And that doesn't include, guys that you're still hanging on to from last year. You're still hanging on to, Jackenzie Noel and Richie Palacios and Framil Reyes if they decide not to move him. Guys that aren't helping you at the very moment. And Tyler Freeman, Gabriel Arias.
Carlos Vargas is on there too, and I know some people have brought him up, and I would hate to lose an electric arm like that, even for any of that group, that we just mentioned, Battenfield, all of that. I know we have them ranked higher. Right. I think Vargas has potential to be more valuable in the back end of the bullpen than those guys potentially do as a back end starter, reliever type role for any of those guys. But I'm not making these calls for some reason. So,
yeah, same here. That's why I told Rob we were talking about some players. I said, I enjoy writing about this stuff. It's interesting to me, and it's fun as a baseball fan who likes to think through the logistics of this stuff and roster building. But I'm not sure I would enjoy having to make these decisions. It sounds like a lot of stress that I just don't have room for in my life right now. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Maybe I'm with you on Vargas. I know people are going to probably suggest that and whatnot, but especially considering the fact they're probably going to get an extra option year back out of him. I know the fact that he missed time with Tommy John, they're for sure going to get an extra option year on him. So
yeah, he missed the entire season. So losing an entire season to injury, typically, those guys get an option year back.
So I think it makes no sense to move on from him when you have that extra year back with him.
Yep.
Yeah, as like you said, I agree. He's an electric arm, and even though we both think he's a reliever, we both think he can be a good one. And it's just tough. So I don't know. I mean, do you trade some of these guys? Maybe. And
I think that's where you start looking at other roster munitions, if you will, with Ahmed Rosario. Even they clearly didn't move him today. Does that mean that they're going to move him in December or November? Maybe. It seems like at some point they're going to transition away. And with 1 year of control, are they just going to let him play out his deal? Or are they going to work an extension with him? It just seems odd to do that and continue to block probably the deepest position in the organization. And I know some people will say how fantastic of a player Ahmed Rosario is. He's an average major league shortstop. He's done well for himself defensively this year. He's got really good speed, can hit a lot of singles, and I tend to think that having Andres Jimenez next to him makes him look like a better defender than what he is. And I think Jose is a pretty good defender at third. So him being in between those two, seeing Jimenez making plays on the other side of second base, on the shortstop side of second base, just leads me to believe that Jimenez is shading him a little bit and helping him out defensively because he's such a quality player that I think would provide even more value if he were the everyday shortstop. But that's not the case right now, As I've said, Rosario has had a fine year, and he's providing value. And, it does matter that a player is liked in the clubhouse. I alluded to bringing in vets the other day on Twitter, and I specifically pointed to Blake Parker's influence on Trevor Stephan and how much that has paid off for them. And, I think that's that's why Brian Shaw is there. We all joke about him being the weatherman or, not being a very good opener or reliever or pitching anymore. But there is value and wisdom from a veteran arm in the bullpen with a bunch of hard-throwing, talented guys. Somebody needs to teach them how to care for their arm, how to get through the ups and downs of a lengthy season. No better than somebody that's done it and shown that they can do it and remain healthy too while doing it. So he's seen his better days. We all know that. But hopefully he can guide some of these younger arms through it while he's here. And, who knows? They may keep him for next year with the option that he has. So.
Right. Yeah, maybe if it vests. Here's one that snuck into the deadline. This is a big one. Padres traded Brent Rooker to the Royals for Cam Gallagher, so another catcher on the move. That one snuck in. Yeah, Yeah, the value is for sure there with some of those guys. I mean, I don't know how much you can really stand with Brian Shaw. I gotta think this is it for him. Brian Shaw has not. I know ERA can sometimes be deceptive, but for him, not so much. He has not had an ERA under 5 in any month except for April. I think even then it was like 3, but it was with an FIP of like over 5. So he has not pitched well at all this year. He has been. There's not a single number on his stat line that's good. There's not. His strikeout rate is the lowest it's ever been in his career. His walk rate is the second highest of his career. Swinging strike rate is the second lowest of his career. I'm sorry, third lowest. His FIP is over 5. His ERA is over 5. If you really want to squint super hard, the expected FIP is 4.69. That's definitely super valuable. There are definitely ways for him to add value, but I feel like at this point, yeah, his April ERA was 3.38, but his April FIP was 4.61. So that was the last time he was, and he walked 4 and he struck out that month. So there's value to be had. It's just I think at this point the value has been had. There's not much left to get from him, given the way things have gone. I'm with you on Rosario. I mean, I think you can clear that spot in the winter. Obviously, like you said, the front office likes him. The guys in the clubhouse like him. I forget that walk-off hit last night. If you saw it, but him and Jose were hugging quite a bit. So clearly they like that. I don't know. He's only 27. I'm sorry. He's
26 right now.
Yeah, 26. He'll be 27 in November. A free agent at the end of next year. I don't know if you really like him that much. You sign to extension, then you've got to trade. Then you've got to trade Brocchio and Freeman and Arias or any of those guys. You have to trade one of them or two of them, maybe. I don't know. I don't see them. I don't see him hanging on to Rosario long term. He definitely adds value. He's definitely a nice player, but he's making $5 million this year. Sorry, $5 million. So what does he project in arbitration next year? Probably 7, 8.
Yeah, I'd say 7.5, 8. That would
I just can't see them paying that.
Yeah, add about 30% of his salary to it, so it'd end up being close to 8. But
I get not trading him now. I totally understand hanging on to him. I was off board at that point.
He's been a little bit better than I thought he would be because he's been average this year defensively. That's been huge on his behalf. But as I said, I think a lot of that is Andres Jimenez and Jose Ramirez making up for his failures at times. Who else do you move, though? It's really they're going to have to make a trade or two. I said they're not going to trade Zach Plesac next year at the deadline and trade Shane Bieber at the deadline. None of that makes any sense to do. And in theory, there's going to be an influx of some resources coming into the organization with the new minority owner coming on board too. And it seems like MLB is getting new TV deals for different apps on a daily basis, or that's the way it feels sometimes. I could see a lot of things changing and them being very active in the trade market. But I think it's after the Rule 5 before they can make those moves. In the meantime, they still need to consolidate. Maybe they're able to get like a backup catcher or something from who, I don't know, Right. Maybe that means they can pick up a bullpen arm that has some value. They may just risk it on a few of these guys and trade them to another team, basically for pennies on the dollar, which I don't like that scenario. Maybe they can add value to someone and pair a couple of these guys together, pair a Battenfield and a Curry, and bring back a left-handed reliever for next year or something like that, where you're not really feeling the crunch is bad. Teams are always looking for pitching and look at the deadline. There's been pitchers going left and right, and some of them we've scratched our head like, why?
Yeah, and they're as we said before, they're going to have to do it before the Rule 5 or 40-man rosters are set before Rule 5, so they've got to get it done quickly in the off season, which is it's challenging for sure. They definitely didn't make things any easier on themselves. I don't know. I thought it was interesting that Chris Antonetti said they really weren't concerned about the 40-man roster at all right now. I'm not sure if that's just him playing it cool or what, trying not to oversell things, but I don't know. Maybe they are planning on clearing some space this winter. Maybe, like you said, Rosario and Maley and Shaw and McCarty and I don't know. Maybe then Alex Call. Maybe they do get rid of Arnie Clement. I don't know. They got so many outfields on the roster. Maybe there is somebody else that they want to use in that role. I guess we'll find out. Maybe they don't have enough value on him to keep him over anybody else, which they shouldn't. Because if it really comes down to protecting, Angel Martinez and Ernie Clement, I'm protecting Angel Martinez personally.
Yes.
So maybe that's the decision they'll have to make when the time comes. But definitely disappointing today on a lot of fronts. Just really were hoping to maybe have a chance to clear some of the space and add to the team, even if it was something minor, but they didn't. What do you think is said in the clubhouse at this point? They didn't add anything of value to the clubhouse at this point. Does that? I don't know. Does that really tell the team that you don't believe in them? Would they have been more energized by adding something? I mean, I don't know. What do you think is said down there?
I think it's a good question, and I think this continues to be a developmental year. I think that they'll say something that they trust them and they like the players that they already have in the organization and didn't want to go outside of the organization for that, not wanting to overpay, or they wanted to stay within the players that they have because they like the player group that they have right now to work with, which I do think that is part of it. That's one thing I think is kind of getting lost in all of this is I think that the organization is actually in a really good place minus the catcher position.
Yeah.
I think the catcher position is one of the weakest positions in the entire organization. That's not a slight toward Bo Naylor. That's not a slight toward Brian Lavastida. I'm not slighting any of the international players that were brought in the last few years, but there's a big gap in talent. There's not that guy in high A or there's not that guy in double A where we can say, hey, they're just 20 years old. It's going to take them a year or two. I liked Logan Ohapi or Ohop, however you pronounce his name. I mentioned him, and I mentioned Rafael Marchand from the Phillies as potential pieces that Cleveland could target if Philly were to really want Plesac and we were willing to deal him. The fact that Philly didn't get a starting pitcher, makes me feel a little bit better because Cleveland didn't get a minor league catcher either, that I would have liked to have seen them bring in. So
yeah, they did move Ohapi, but yeah.
In depth, and it doesn't have to be somebody that's necessarily going to require being added to the 40, but they just need more depth and talent at that one position. But other than that, you can look up and down rosters in AAA and AA, and there are talented outfielders, there's talented infielders, there's a ton of pitching. At some point you're going to have to move somebody to get a position where you need it. And I think that's what Philadelphia did, sent in Ohapi to Anaheim for Brandon Marsh. They brought in a center fielder that they liked that will be able to maybe mash a little bit, provide some defense and some speed and a strong arm. Somebody I liked and wouldn't mind Cleveland getting a hold of, but Cleveland really didn't have a catcher to deal away to get him.
No, they did not. No, they did not. Yeah, so as disappointing as today was for sure, the trade deadline was for Cleveland. They're not in a bad spot. I mean, look, we just said the team is a kind of a year early contention-wise, and they're still the youngest team in the league, and they're only going to get younger unless they make any significant moves. So, and come November, December, So they're in a good spot. It's certainly a tough spot considering you've got to figure out what to do with this crunch, but it's not a bad spot. You just hope that they find a way to alleviate some of these concerns in November. I guess we'll figure it out.
Eventually, you're going to have to give way to some of these prospects that are there, or they're going to give way to being packaged into a deal. I mean, I think a lot of people like Owen Miller, but I don't think Owen Miller is particularly a spectacular player. Would be better used as a bench piece than Ernie Clement. But that's where I think they're going to have to make these type of decisions in the offseason, because clearly they didn't happen today. And it's a good problem to have, is the talent's still there, but I suspect that they're going to end up losing some value on some of the guys. They'll probably end up losing some prospects in the Rule 5, but we can't wring our hands over that. The only thing you can do is just go with what you have, and they have a good problem, which is excess of talent, and talent that should be on the 40-man roster.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing to have. It's just you can't afford to lose some of these guys for nothing, which is the issue. And it's just frustrating and crazy that hasn't happened, because we've been talking about this since last November, and they didn't make any significant moves over the offseason. The lockout, and they swung and missed on Matt Olson. The Braves beat their offer, whatever happened there. There are a couple other trades they were connected to. So we've been talking about this for over, since last November, and we're going to continue to have to harp on this, and for better or for worse. Some people do like talking about it. We've had some great stats, concerning people reading columns at the at GuardiansBaseballInsider.com. We've had great podcasts, listening numbers based on Rule 5 conversations. So people do generally like hearing about it, but they also, there's also a lot of source of frustration. So it's tough. Real quickly, I got a couple things I want to run through with you, Willie, because I know it's already an hour. We haven't gotten any of the other stuff, but the Juan Soto deal, I know Cleveland wasn't in the thick of things. What would your overall thought be? Do you think, seeing how that worked out and what he went for, are you glad that Cleveland stayed out of that?
It ended up being less than initially what I thought it was going to be.
I agree with that.
I guess to me it would be quantify in Cleveland's prospects what that would be, going out and coming back.
Valera for sure.
Yeah,
that's Valera, and I would say, I don't know. There's nobody they could have traded to match Mackenzie Gore. I know Mackenzie Gore is banged up right now, but I don't know if there's any. Yeah, Tristan McKay would have been Mackenzie, and
Mackenzie Gore didn't end up going in the deal when it was done. He ended up staying when Hosmer was pulled out of it. So they were basically buying Mackenzie Gore for Hosmer, and then they took back Luke Voigt and sent back Josh Bell. So they upped that end of it, and so Hassel went. Hassel is a very talented outfielder.
So that's Valera. That's Valera match right there. So McKenzie
you got James Wood rather. That's a top 5 player for them. I don't know if that would be Nolan Jones.
Yeah.
So maybe Valera, Jones,
McKenzie,
Tristan McKenzie, and then another piece. They had Susan.
It was an 18-year-old pitcher, so maybe it's gosh, I don't know. Cleveland has that far away in terms of
maybe Logan Allen or something like that for Jarlin.
Yeah,
very talented arm in the Padres system.
Yeah, they might have looked for somebody further away than that. Maybe it would have been a player to be named later, and then you would have had to trade like Justin Campbell or something in the offseason as the player to be named later or something. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was still. I still think that was a good deal for both teams. Really, I think that worked out really well.
As
good as you're going to get for
C.J. Abrams was involved in that.
Oh, that's right. So C.J. Abrams is probably Brian Rocchio. So you have Brian Rocchio, Valera, Tristan McKenzie, Nolan Jones, and maybe Um, I really don't know how to fit the pitcher in there. Maybe it's I don't know. Cleveland doesn't have a pitcher that far away, really. Maybe it's Gavin Williams. I don't know. I guess Gavin Williams might have had him in the pitcher there because they don't have an 18.
Logan Allen. Well, that depends on where they would have viewed. So you might be right. Maybe Gavin Williams would be the right one to throw in there.
Yeah, and I would definitely not want to do that deal if I'm Cleveland, just because you give up Valera, McKenzie, Rocchio, and Jones. Giving up Valera and Jones, I think, would have been really tough right now because and McKenzie's already in the rotation and Jones is already up. Valera's close. I mean, you can give up one, not the other, probably. And you could have. I guess Rocchio would have been an affordable loss, but yeah, I think in the end, definitely okay to not make that trade. I guess considering where they're at, it would have been great to consolidate for sure, but yeah, given where they at, didn't think it made sense. Derek Deese wants to know what they'll do at the starting pitching spot the rest of the year. They can't continue to go with Shaw opening for McCarty. Oof. Yeah, that's right. Well, they said Savali's supposed to be back in August, but he hasn't even started on a rehab assignment yet, so he's not going to be back in the next 2 weeks. So,
day by day.
What's that?
I said day by day.
Yeah, definitely going to be day by day. It might continue to be Shaw and McCarty for at least until Savali's back.
Maybe Morris, once Morris gets stretched out.
I mean, it should be Pilkington in theory.
Yeah.
So I guess Pilkington probably comes back up next time out. Although he's, at the moment, I believe Pilkington is scheduled to be in the Columbus rotation. Let me take a look at my roster sheet for the week. Yeah, Pilkington is scheduled to pitch on August 5th for Columbus. That's Friday. And right now the rotation for Cleveland looks like who's going tonight for them. Tonight is McKenzie. Tomorrow is they don't have a starter for Friday. Cleveland doesn't have a starter for Friday, and Pilkington's lineup to start Friday for Columbus. So I would imagine Friday you see Pilkington come up.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's that. Yeah. So I think that's a little go with that. So we talked about the Juan Soto thing a little bit. We talked about the 40-man roster real quickly. Will Benson, kind of a surprise. I know he's up because they're worried about Josh Naylor's ankle, and Owen Miller also had a forearm contusion the other day in Tampa Bay. So he's providing some unexpected first base coverage. I don't know how long he'll be up, but I was surprised by that, but I'm really glad he got the chance. He definitely deserves it.
Yeah, definitely worked for it. And, can't lose sight that he's only 24 years old. He was so young when he was drafted. I said it would be a 7-year development path. It's under that. It's 6+ years for him to get to the major leagues. But you know what? The tools are there to be a major league player. What that looks like in the future, I'm interested in seeing and finding out. I don't know how you fit all of these young outfielders in the future. Maybe he can move around the outfield. I'd like to see him get some playing time if he's up. Otherwise, I'd rather see an Alex Call on the roster kind of holding the space until he's pushed off of the roster at a later point. Yeah.
I do think that now that Benson's on the 40, he's staying there. I don't think they would have made that move if they thought they're not going to DFA him off the roster at this point. Maybe he ends up in a trade. We'll see. But in November.
Yeah, that's a more likely scenario.
Yeah, but he's definitely on the roster for the time, his roster spot does not come off now. That's the point and that's the thing we keep stressing is every time you add a guy like this to the 40-man, you can't get him off unless you trade. So he's there.
And if you trade him, the other team has to be willing to take him onto their 40-man roster too, which is the tricky part because you have a young guy like Jose Tena and a young Kenzie Noel. You got Will Benson on there. All of these guys, when they are dealt or if they are dealt, will have to go onto the other team's 40-man roster. So the perfect storm or the perfect scenario would be for Cleveland to pursue, I don't know, maybe let's say a pitcher that they like. I'll use Pablo Lopez as an example. Cleveland says, you know what? He's got 2 years of control. This is what we value him at. We'll give you Zach Plesac. We'll give you Will Benson. And I don't know, maybe a shortstop Angel Martinez and somebody deep in the minor league system. There you've cleared 3 guys. You bring back 1, but you've actually just cleared 2 roster spots. That's the type of deal I think they'll probably be looking for this offseason, and hope they can get that type of move done before the Rule 5 draft.
Right. That's where they have to go with everything. But yeah, anytime you add someone to the 40, that's the issue there, is they don't come off until you make some sort of move. You can't just, remove them. That's the issue. That's why they haven't had, use someone like Battenfield yet until they're sure. Yeah, so Benson's up. Oscar Gonzalez is back up. Franmil Reyes is down. We talked about Franmil Reyes a little bit. I don't think we need to spend too much time there. I think the issue is what it is. It's he's having a hard time, chasing. We don't know what they're going to do with him in the future, but yeah, that could be a spot cleared. Cody Morris, we did say, is going to be in Columbus this week. I think he is currently scheduled to pitch tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow he'll piggyback with Tanner Tully or vice versa, one of the two. So he's back. That's good to see. He, it sounds like he pitched pretty good in Arizona. So he's coming back as a starter, obviously. So maybe he'll get in the bullpen, but right now they're at least stretching him out to have starter length innings. I imagine we'll see Cody Morris before the year is up at this point. I don't know what role it'll be in, but I do think you'll see him before the end of the year. Ethan Hankins came back. He finally pitched last night in the Arizona Complex League. 1 perfect inning, 1 strikeout. That's good to see. I don't think they'll put him on the 40-man roster. I think you said earlier, Willie, that probably low risk there. I know Luis Oviedo got taken a couple of years ago. That did not work out very well for the Pirates. He's back in Cleveland and not pitching very well. I don't think there's a whole lot of risk.
Sure, and he's returning now from Tommy John, so they won't be able to just DL him, or rather IL him. And he's barely pitched in, 2 years?
Yeah, the last time he pitched was 2019.
3 years, okay.
Yeah.
So he's not really pitched in 3 years, so you can't really just throw him out there in the bullpen. He's going to be limited on his innings is what I'm really getting at, and I don't think people are going to want to spend those on the major league level. Even though I do think he is a talented arm, I think there will be other interesting arms, maybe a Miko Lachak that could get taken. Maybe, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But I suspect there'll be some guys like that are available too, just because the roster space is so tight for the organization right now. But I do think we will see consolidation trades. You mentioned Reyes. I'll just say it right now, is I don't think Reyes is back with the organization at the end of the season. I think somehow he is off of the roster. How that happens, I don't know. I don't think it's anything that he's done other than poor performance and them seeing young players that need at-bats, and DH is a good position for that, and to keep Jose healthy.
Yep, I agree. I think you've seen the last of Franmil Reyes long term. Joey Cantillo, after a month away, it came back, pitched 3 innings in Akron, pitched pretty well, had 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, gave up a hit. Obviously, with a month missed, he was going to be a little bit rusty control-wise, but he only gave up a hit, which says still, guys are still having a hard time hitting the ball against him, which is great to see. Officially, Willie, it was arm care, so no injury. He pitched 8 innings between 2020 and 2021. Obviously, no one pitched in 2020. He had 8 innings last year, so it was a rest period for him, considering how little he has thrown over the last year. So instead of shutting him down in September, they decided to take a break in the middle of the season and let him finish the season. So,
sure,
very, very good to see from him. That was great, and I'm still very much high on Joey Cantillo, and I think he's a must-add to the 40-man roster. I
Agreed.
have not jumped off that trade. I was going to leave some room in case our discussion on the trade deadline petered out. Surprisingly, it didn't. Even though nothing happened, I was going to talk about rankings because you and I have already talked about. I guess we don't have any prospects to re-rank in the system. Our rankings are going to stay as they are. But we already talked about the rankings for 2023 and what we have planned, but we don't have to get into that today because we had enough discussion. Let's get to some couple questions real quick. We're already an hour and a half, but hour and 19. But we'll get to some questions real quick, and then we'll call it a day. as the Guardians called it a day very early. We should do the same.
They mailed it in, huh?
They Luke mailed it in. Quincy said, "What do you think of the blank trade? Were you okay giving up blank?" I think it's a great trade. Give up blank for blank. I think it's always a win.
I'll just say, just like his blanks, I'm open to it.
Yeah, I'm open to it. Open to all the possibilities that trade opened up. Michael Mahoney said, disregarding the no trade clause, which Cleveland was definitely on it, would you have liked to see the Guardians take on Eric Hosmer for a Padres prospect? No, not at all. I don't want Eric Hosmer, and I don't want any more prospects unless it was I don't know. Did the Padres have a catcher, a 2024 catcher they could have taken on? Maybe, but no, I didn't want Eric Hosmer.
There's somebody that's going to be Rule 5 eligible next year. I can't remember the guy's name.
Well, no, I don't want a Rule 5 eligible catcher. I want a catcher that's Rule 5 eligible in 2024.
Valenzuela, Brandon Valenzuela. Brandon Valenzuela. Back to Quincy's question real quick. Just remember, what they got today cost them nothing.
That's true. That is true. They did not have to give up a lot for what they got. That's very impressive. That's a win. RO Owl 9. Is Bo Naylor's emergence factored into the club's decision not to trade for a catcher?
No.
Or do you think he's a real option to be the starter from the get-go in 23?
No.
I definitely think it's a factor, Willie. You said that not to muddy the waters. I think that comment was possibly aimed at the catcher position for Bo Naylor. I don't know if he's going to start the year as the catcher next year, but I do think that comment definitely did say that to me.
I say no because I do think they want to add a catcher. If that means bringing back Austin Hedges, who, by the way, and Justin, you know this, I've said we need to extend Austin Hedges. I've been saying for almost 2 years they need to do something about the catcher position, whether that be through the draft, which I thought they would draft more than one catcher. They did not. And I thought that they may try to bring in a guy. Austin Allen is the guy that I was actually thinking about as a possibility because he is a guy with a pedigree, and Oakland is moving stuff, and knowing that they had brought in Bo Taylor. And I thought once Montas went off of the board, Murphy wasn't going until this offseason. I will still say I think Sean Murphy gets traded this offseason. That could be to Chicago, the Cubs, who will need a frontline catcher. I know that they have a young catcher. I can't remember his name, but he had Tommy John surgery.
Yeah.
I'll say this they're going to be in the market for a catcher this offseason unless they extend Austin Hedges between now and then. I think Maley is off of the roster. I think they want to transition Naylor in, but they want to have a mentor, an excellent defensive catcher mentor. No drop off from what Hedges is defensively. They want to reinforce that position offensively and upgrade there. But so I say no. It wasn't a factor. I think that they were looking for something, but where does that come from? I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. They definitely do need to do something, and I imagine
they're not going to have two rookies as the tandem next year. We'll say that.
Yeah, so that tells you anything. Yeah, it depends on whether they go after Murphy or they go after
Hedges,
extending Hedges or another stopgap veteran. But I do think, if they go after Murphy, then I really don't know. It's hard to say. It's really hard to say how that affects Naylor. But I think at least not doing it today at least says for now they were willing to bet on Bo Naylor being the future and not pay whatever price the Oakland wanted for Sean Murphy. If that price changes in the offseason, then they may still do it. But for now, I guess they feel better about Bo Naylor than they did the price for Sean Murphy, I guess is probably the best way to put that. But everything's relative. Captain, or the Big Keef, Captain Clutch. If they aren't going to move anybody and help this logjam now, is the move to try again in the offseason. I think we kind of answered that already, truthfully. But I think that's the same. And then Wes wanted to know what to do with Fran Mill. Hold on. How he builds back value. I think we both said probably out of the organization, barring a significant shift at this point. So that is that. We never did pick players of the week last week, Willie, and I think we've gone long enough this week. We don't need to do it. So let's resume our players of the week picks next week. Now that I officially gave us a tie for the week of Nolan Jones's call up. So we'll just call it a tie and not go back to that. So we'll start it with the players of the week again next week, given how things have gone. But yeah, anything else you want to add, Willie? I know you just had the draft review up on the site at GuardiansBaseballInsider.com. I know you're talking mock draft with Jared soon. Anything else you want to add?
No, I always enjoy the drama that unfolds around the trade deadline. Our hope and aspirations is always high, and a lot of people are probably disappointed. I will probably sound harsh saying this, but I felt like this team was pretenders, not contenders this year. So I don't think it would have been right for them to go all in and try to win the World Series. I didn't see this team as that caliber of a team. I think that's the hope and the potential for the next few years. I don't like the term windows. Some people like to use because I believe that you can keep windows open by making the right moves. It's something I think to be excited about, though, is that this organization has a ton of talent within. There's a few pieces lacking. I think that will come along the way. They just need to make the right moves. And, sometimes you just can't worry about losing talent. You're going to. It's a matter of managing the talent that you have and maximizing that for your roster. So I think that's enough said.
Yeah, definitely disappointing in terms of trades, but we're not going to have a lack of things to talk about come November. We're going to be able to have lots of discussions around Rule 5. And like I said before, is it a little more frustrating that they haven't done anything yet? Absolutely. But last year, people
for a big trade too, though, Justin. I mean, like I said, if they were to go after a Pablo Lopez in the offseason, or maybe it is a Sean Murphy, who knows? I haven't looked at the future free agents and stuff. Who's going to be dealing pieces? Right. There might be a trade to be had to bring in a piece that will catapult the organization forward, so to speak.
Yeah, the thing to look at too is going in the offseason, who is going to be rebuilding. Like Oakland's still in rebuilding mode. The Reds are still in rebuilding mode. The Rockies, I never know what the Rockies are doing personally. I don't think the Rockies know what they're doing. The Diamondbacks are not really going anywhere. The Nationals are clearly, tearing down, and they have nothing left to sell, which is not good. The Orioles are on their way back up. The Tigers and Royals are still there. That's the problem. Is there's not a lot of teams out there selling. It's just I guess we'll see. It's going to be an interesting offseason. I think that's where everything is that. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, finding the right dance partner is the hard part here, and that's what ended up happening today. And they'll have to work harder to figure it out in the offseason. Maybe they go after, like you said, Sean Murphy in the offseason. Tyler Stevenson could be an option, although he keeps getting hurt. That's not ideal. So, so I guess that means continue to stay tuned to the site for more Rule 5 talk, because that's what we did last year, and we're going to be doing it again this year. At least this year we don't have the threat of a lockout hanging over our heads.
You said the L word.
I said the L word. Yeah, the L word. None of that. We're nothing to worry about in that regard this offseason. Plenty to talk about. And stay tuned to the site for the rest of the year. Well, I guess we're not re-ranking the prospects, but we'll have more stuff on that coming the offseason. And we still have 2 months of minor league baseball to cover, so make sure you stay tuned to all of our in-game coverage, because we've got more prospects to talk about. It that will undoubtedly build value to get them selected in the Rule 5 draft or traded. So stick around for that, and we will be back next week with a more, normal episode. So if you stuck around the whole hour and 30 minutes, thank you. And not sure what's wrong with you, but thank you. And thanks for listening to us ramble, and we'll do it again next week.